Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. As Matt said, my name is Matt, and as he said, I've been around church most of my life, so I've got experience of Christian festivals for many years. I remember being age 4 or 5 and first turning up at Royal Week or maybe Spring Harvest in the late 80s. Actually, I was baptized on one of the Don Double crusades in Malvern in the early 90s. And I'll have many memories of Ishmael and the Glory Company and Rich Hubbard and the PowerPoint team, and those being inspirational days in how I became a Christian on my journey. And so, actually, as I look now, even at festivals for my family, I've got 3 young children, and I look at the joy it brings them, thinking back to some of the weeks that we spent away at Christian Bible weeks and festivals many years ago for me, but for my kids now. My 7-year-old would talk lots about going to the big tent and actually when we pray at night time at bedtime stories with my daughter, she always says, Daddy, you need to pause. And she takes a deep breath because she learned last year that you need to pause when you pray, the first P of prayer. And so for me, festivals hold a big thing. So let's have a quick think. Why might you go to a festival? I've got a few ideas here. Maybe you're going to a festival, or let's include church holidays and other Bible weeks. Maybe you're going to have some fun, or maybe you're going to meet some people or find a partner, or maybe you're going to engage with the wider church family or catch up with your network. Maybe you're going to hear some amazing speakers and study the Bible together, or you're going for some prayer or worship. Actually, you've seen on the list a great worship leader you love and you love their songs. Or maybe you're going because actually your church leader tells you you have to. Or actually, it's a great chance to invite some friends for an evangelistic chance to go. So there are many ideas of why you might be going. Or maybe one other idea is you're actually thinking, I want some inspiration for our church. So we're going to go and see, because we're going to go and model, okay, what is it like when churches come together? What ideas can we get from this? What things can we take back to our church? Technology in churches has been growing and growing. Most churches have a sound system. And during the pandemic, a large number of churches have embraced technology in a new way. The number of church leaders I speak to who suddenly become video engineers over the last few years, who've worked out how to use a piece of video software, or they've worked out how to balance a light somewhere, because we've all had to learn about that. And as church, when we worship and come together, for me, I think we're trying to create distraction-free environments to let people engage with Jesus. And obviously, we've not been able to meet in person that much over the last couple of years. The phrase I heard the other day that made me smile, most people are zoomed out. But as we attended church, and I mean attending, not just watched at home, we saw God's power at work in our midst. Nicky Gumbel used this great phrase I love, which is the Holy Spirit can even work on Zoom. And lots of festivals have come up with different offerings of virtual and hybrid over the last few years. Maybe it's been the same, maybe not. Maybe you've been involved in a watch party with your friends, or you've gathered your family or a few people on your sofa at home, or maybe you've sat there alone and you've watched it. But do you give it the same focus and dedicated attention? Events need to be quite flexible and adapting to the environment around them. That might be the weather and all kinds of things. But actually, this whole virtual part that we can add on to events is an interesting thing. But does it add extra cost? And how do you charge for it? And do people want to watch it? Lots of challenges and things to think about. So let's have a quick look at what are the challenges that Christian festivals right now face. And I think the biggest challenge here is, do people actually want to go to a festival or a Bible week or a church holiday? Are they a thing of the 2000s and no one's interested anymore? I've already mentioned church attendance levels. Well, they're not back up to pre-pandemic levels yet. It's all about momentum. So actually go back maybe 5 years, and every summer you went to a Christian festival, or people went to a certain Christian event or festival because that's what you did. You knew that the last week of July or the Easter holidays or the May half term, this is what you did. Actually, you get your family or your friends, you pulled the tent out the loft and garage, you borrowed bits from a friend, you got in the car and you rushed to see your friends. There may be some people in your church family who you only really spend time with once a year. And this was your chance to do that. So the question, the first challenge is momentum. Do people want to attend? And have we lost that momentum? Have we filled that gap in our diary with other things? And then the next issue, and the world is talking around this, I can pull headlines out, we're in a cost of living crisis. This means people have got less disposable income, but it also means the costs for organisers to run events increased. logistics, people, equipment, food. And actually, they're trying to control, event organizers are trying to control the ticket price. But this is a challenge with all these things. Festivals have been surviving, but they've been surviving on donations. Actually, if they start to look at some of the challenges, actually, some of the festivals who struggled most, maybe that's because they've got the bigger overheads, because they've got the biggest staff team. And some of those that are managing to thrive at the moment actually are thriving, but through volunteers, or they found the right funding to actually be able to subsidize the ticket price. As I said, they need to be able to adapt quickly. But I think that's a real challenge. How do they make sure that they can break even or have the funding? And then location. You'll have all seen that New Wine is moving this year because they can't be at Peterborough, because Peterborough Showground no longer is doing outdoor events this summer. From this summer, there are less places to be able to achieve great summer outdoor festivals that are feasible and financially available. So this is a real challenge. And then the other bit related to that is with more and more housing developments around a lot of the open air spaces, actually noise levels and place for camping and all these things are getting much harder. And then theme. This is a challenge, I think. It's all about theme. This year, if you look at Spring Harvest, the theme was Flip, the Upside Down Kingdom. And they've been through Restore, Renew, Rebuild over the years, and they've looked at Unleash. There's many series. In the mid-90s, they went through, the mid-noughties, the early 2000s, One God, One People, One Hope over the years. Lots of different themes. So actually, real challenge of what's the right theme and the right speakers to attract people. Are people going because they see a speaker? And then maybe one of the other challenges, keeping up with technology. As I said, technology is advancing. Actually, for me, I look at how do we make church as a whole relevant to my 7-year-old who's more interested in the iPad than she is in talking to my face. But that might be a sign of the times. So as things move forwards, how do we make these conferences and festivals more and more relevant? Because as technology moves on, if we're going to more of a concert, a festival with more music and things, actually, as we look at some of the other events and gigs, secular events right now and festivals, how is technology moving forward in those? And therefore, how do we reflect that back through lighting, through images, through other ways of connecting? But here's some thoughts I've got on why we should and really invest in festivals and where we should really send our kids. If we're not going to attend as a family, well, why are we sending our kids? If you remember, Soul Survivor started from New Wine being a family week-long conference, and then the youth bit of it broke off to become Soul Survivor. Now, Soul Survivor felt it was time to stop a few years ago, but the youth conferences are thriving at the moment. If you look last summer, events like DTI, events like Limitless, events like New Day, they were all, DTI and Limitless are quite new and infant in their style. Satellites the same. They're newer youth events, but they all starting to build. New Day, the New Frontiers Festival, that was at its highest numbers because there's a real hunger for the young people, and churches are happier to invest in sending to subsidize for bursaries and really invest in their young people. So some ideas of why I think we should go. The first one is to re-energize and spark. You know, we all need to feed, but sometimes we get so caught up in serving with life in general, we don't go to these events as an attendee. Maybe every Sunday you're involved in your church, but therefore, actually, these events give us a chance to meet with Jesus. Maybe actually we should go to encounter God in a bigger setting than our average Sunday, because generally our Sunday, maybe actually your church is small or big, but you have a chance here to be able to be slightly more anonymous at these events and therefore to be able to encounter God. Festivals are places where our emotions start to run high quite quickly as we let the Holy Spirit take over and we have a deeper encounter. When we're surrounded by thousands of people worshiping and building each other up, we naturally experience God in a different way. Maybe actually we should go to be empowered by our church network. If you go with people, a group from your church, it's a great chance to hang out with your church, but also understand a bit more about your church. For me, I go to a local Baptist church, but I want to go to our conference, the church conference that's around the network we're part of, to hear what's going on and to see more of the global view of the church, to see more people involved. Actually, one of the reasons I think we should really go is to meet people. We live in this world now where we've all been stuck in the houses for a few years, but actually a festival is a great chance to meet people and And you get to camp with different people and you get to know people that maybe you don't spend very much time with in a different way. And then we should go to learn and get ideas to take home. So many talks and workshops that are designed for information. There'll be a Bible, potentially a marketplace, a place to go and meet some charities, a resource tent, to go and look at some books, actually to give a whole escapism from normal life and to have a glimpse into new things. But I think there are a whole load of sacrifices that we all need to take if we're going to achieve these. And here's the top three. I think our first sacrifice is time. It's really easy to say, but actually we have busy schedules in our lives. And actually maybe giving up a weekend, a long week might be a challenge, but maybe it's a sacrifice worth taking. Maybe the next sacrifice might be your dreams of a summer holiday internationally or a warm or somewhere. You might need to sacrifice your summer holiday to choose that this year you're going to invest in your summer holiday is going to be a commitment to going with your church or some friends to a Christian festival. And again, the other sacrifice is money. As I've talked about, it's more than just a ticket price. It's the getting there. It's the accommodation or the camping. It's the food. It's the wanting to make sure we've got everything we need. And right now that could put a real strain on our finances. I love to look a little bit. I picked a few examples. Keswick. Why does Keswick exist? To hear the word of God and sing God's praises, to be encouraged, inspired, equipped to love and live for Christ in his world. Satellite Youth Festival, a 5-day gathering designed to inspire teenagers to live with God at the center of their lives for the other 360 days of the year. And DTI Limitless, again, gathering young people from churches and youth organizations everywhere, worshiping together, hearing from the Bible, and spending time in God's presence across 5 nights. Now, for me, all 3 of those are amazing things we really want to be doing. Will festivals survive is a great question. Actually, if we look, there are a few types of festivals. Big church festival, that's become a festival, not just big church day out anymore. The idea you can go. I took my kids last summer. We went, we paid to be there, and we had a great couple of days because there was so much to do. The whole family could enjoy different things. Yeah, there's the main stage with some great worship. There was the exhibition area. There was the youth stage. There was the fun fair. There was the kids area. We had so many chances to engage with friends, to see some great music, and to have some fun. And that was a choice. We chose over half term, are we going away somewhere or are we going to go to a festival for the weekend? And we went with some friends. And so I think festivals will survive. Will they be the same? No, I actually think things are going to change. I think youth festivals or festivals aimed at young people are going to thrive. As I've said, I think churches are happier to really invest in our young people much more than anything. It's much easier. Soul Survival went on for so many years and was easy to invest and to really invest in these things. So do I think, back to the original question, will festivals survive? Yes, they will, but I think they'll be different. Will church networks still gather people in the same way? I'm not sure they will. A lot of the festivals that used to occur from networks where they gather for a long weekend, they are happening in a different way because maybe they've gone from being an annual thing that was 5 days long to being a biannual or every 2 or 3 years and just being a long weekend. That's also fair. But I think the connection point is key. We need to be deciding as church networks, okay, what are we trying to achieve? I talk a lot about what's the mission of your event, and therefore from a technological point of view, what's the technology that can help support that? But I think we need to be looking at what's the mission of the event, full stop. What are we trying to achieve? Because we want spaces for people to come together and gather, to encounter God, to be empowered to go out and then to really make a difference in their churches. It's so important. We want lives changed and commitments to God made by people meeting Jesus for the first time, the 10th time, or the 150th time, because so many of these times it's easy to turn up and experience at a festival where either someone comes to pray for you, you meet someone afresh, and we can see the Spirit. A key question to be asking throughout all of this is, when we're thinking and praying about festivals, is, how can we see God at work? And therefore, what impact has that made on our lives? The church is alive. Our festivals will survive. Being a breathing and living church enhances the need for flexibility. And I think we are changing. I think the day, as we are raising generations who are used to technology, we need to be attracting them to an in-person gathering. If you take an example, Spring Harvest went online during the pandemic. It's an event in person now at Butlins, a fantastic event, but you can also do Spring Harvest at home and join in. So there's no reason not in joining with the content with some of the amazing speakers. But at the same time, it's a fantastic event to be able to go along with your friends. And it's Easter, so a different time of year to be able to really engage. So yeah, the key message from me is yes, festivals will survive, but in different ways. Will we go back to the days where we see thousands and thousands of people gathering? Maybe. Will some festivals stop? Of course they will. We're in a transition period. But will new festivals perk up? Yes, they will. And I think we'll see God at work in many different ways through. So I'd really encourage you to be thinking actually through the year in your giving, and what you're doing is, can you make an effort to go to a festival in your church and people around you? Can you engage with a conference or a festival of people around you? And maybe that means you need to gather a couple of friends and talk about it, go this year, and maybe next year actually speak to your church leadership and say, why don't we make more of an effort for our group, a group of us from church? You know, go back to its heyday of Spring Harvest, go back 20, 30 years. You used to have to phone up. And if you wanted to make sure you got the right chalet, you were in the queue on the first day to phone up. You know, the idea that all you do to book up is to phone up right now. If you turned up to Butlins in person, they would tell you to leave and go and make a phone call to book in their bookings line. Now, yes, the world's moved on a bit since then. We have early bird rates for tickets and all kinds of things, which we need to look at together. So in a world that people want to invest in them, we give it our time, we're sacrificing some of our holiday opportunities, and we're giving our resource of money. And yes, we're paying things. That may mean if you're able to support some of the other families around you in your church, well, maybe that's what you need to do. If you can work together with some friends to really give into this. And as we do that, we're going to see some great advances, some great creativity coming as worship leaders gather. You know, that generation of new worship leaders that are coming through. We talk a lot about how do you learn new songs and how do you hear about new worship songs? And it's all that. It's those things. And they are the essence of who we are. And that's the essence of who the church is. So there's my thoughts for you. Yes, festivals will survive. They'll be different, but I think we all need to embrace them.